What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. Today, we have a new subreddit, but before we get to that, I am your host, Zach, and today's new subreddit, as mentioned before, is something you already know from the title, but you're still filled with anticipation, r/EntitledPeople. Not parents, people, because we all know parents aren't people. Alright, my friends, let us cleanse our palates for our first taste, or dare I say, dose of entitled people with My Sister Thinks $55 Covers 2 months of Babysitting. Too long, but you'll read anyway. This makes me hurt a little because up to this point, my sister was the only one I could mildly get along with within my family. But I guess she is my mother's daughter, so the entitlement shouldn't have been a surprise. My sister and brother-in-law are both essential, cop and doctor, so they've needed someone to watch their kids now that school is canceled and a lot of daycare services aren't around. And even then, the youngest one had been kicked out of 2 of them, and finding a new one is difficult due to that. So I've been watching these kids 4 to 6 times a week, depending on their schedule, anywhere between 7 to 12 hours a day. I was told to wait until they got paid, then told to wait for the stimulus check to come in, and they'd pay me for it. At that point, and I do have the text, it was going to be $85 a week. Regardless of that 4 to 6 times a week. Well, they got their stimulus check in. My sister gives me $55 and tells me that this was for the babysitting. I told her, this wasn't what we agreed on. I was told that I should be grateful because she has been feeding me. No, she hasn't. I bought my own food and tended to have to buy the food that these kids were eating for lunch. I was told it was just like hanging out, having fun, playing video games with my nephews. No, it was not, and she knows her kids better to know that they're fucking monsters. They both are destructive. It's a hassle since I have to chase one of them around all the time to prevent them from climbing shelves or from getting out the front door because these kids were never taught to mind. And when I refused to bring my gaming laptop for the older one to play anymore, I told him specifically if he wanted to play on it, he'd only touch the wireless mouse and keyboard and play it at the desk, but not to touch the laptop. So what does he do after getting bored with one game he begged me to let him play? Pick up the laptop and run with it and drop it. I screamed at him. Not my best moment, and he had the attitude of a teenage valley girl of whatever, accidents happen, that's why they're accidents. If it breaks, you can just buy a new one. To which I told him he would be the one to replace the $1,600 computer. But since that day, he's been a whining bag of crap about me not bringing it over for him to play with. I have to deal with these kids assaulting me all the time and not being able to do a thing about it. These kids are freaking monsters! And the only reason I agreed to do this was because she was my sister and she needed help. But I was supposed to be compensated for my time away from my own work. I work commission-based jobs at home, but I can't work on it around them as there's no pause for me to do it less than the younger one would probably run away and get hit by a truck. I know it'll probably be crappy of me to do if I just don't show up for the next few days until they fix paying me what they at the very least owed me. But on the other hand, I really just don't want to be around those kids. They need to be heavily medicated and are the poster children for corporal punishment being a necessity. The kids are 11 and 8. The laptop is fine. My response was due to his attitude of, I can just replace it, when I told him no, because I don't want it broken. I loved the writing here. Redditor OP person. Your post was beautiful, and the energy you put down, I picked up, and I think together we just produced something pretty beautiful. And guess what, my beautiful, beautiful audience? There's more. That's right, part 2 starting right now. Update! My sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. Oh, we meet again, cookie dough junkie. So I waited some time so I wouldn't have to do multiple updates after a few people asked for them. Not sure if this is typically a subreddit that allows updates, but here it goes. To clear the air here, I am a dude. I know, how feminizing for a man to babysit. I had thought to correct this in the other post, but I was also sort of amused at how many people assumed I was a woman. I spoke first to brother-in-law, who had no idea she wasn't paying me. So he was the one to pay me back for the weeks I had already done. He wasn't very happy with my sister. I didn't watch them for this last week. I did talk to my sister first off about how disrespectful that was to make a deal and renege on that deal, especially considering how ill-behaved her kids are. My sister told me she didn't think it was a big deal because I was getting unemployment, and she assumed that because some people were getting unemployment and an additional $600 a week due to Brovid. That doesn't make any sense to pay extra to people on unemployment and not those working. So I was making bank either way. She assumed wrong. I was not getting $600 extra a week. I wasn't on unemployment due to Brovid, but it was part of what happened with my former employer before I went to work for myself, that they're paying my unemployment for their many labor law violations. My unemployment through them is almost up anyways. Either way, it was odd for her to assume I was making $900 a week off unemployment without asking me if I was. She and her brother-in-law had to switch around their shifts to watch their kids this week since I wouldn't show up. Brother-in-law said he'd pay me directly if she wasn't going to, and that's when it became a three-way conversation. I let them know that their kids' behavior is really unacceptable, even for behaviorally challenged kids, which if they were, they'd be forced to have a child care provider licensed for dealing with it. That's not the case with their kids. They just let them get away with too much. Ironically, last week I saw a hot bench episode with a mother who had a child who apparently told the babysitter to put him in his room, put up the gate if she were to not be in the room with him for any reason so he couldn't get out. And this kid was 10, and it got me thinking of my nephews. So I told them they need to install more security measures against the kids. A high-raise lock that the monkey can't reach so he can't be running out the door, removing anything that can be used as a weapon, possibly a gate to lock one up in a room if they're misbehaving when there's nothing in there for them to break. I still will not hit a kid, but I don't mind shoving them into a room and locking it to see if they calm down. I am not watching them this week either, but I told them I might reconsider if something can be done to make watching them not like being a security guard at a prison. At least there you can beat up the inmates. My sister didn't like my suggesting that they need to change their parenting, but my brother-in-law actually agreed. They had their argument, and he said this is why they can't get babysitters or daycare for them anymore. They're out of control. Definitely knew that. And that they just keep coddling them through it. Definitely knew my sister was doing that. So there's a possibility I might watch them next week, if they have some sort of new way to mitigate their behaviors that could actually work. But that's not a yes yet. They would need these ways to start disciplining their kids either way, or they'll just be releasing awful teens onto the world. Alright, Cookie Dopey, you gotta tell us more tales of these awful children in this entitled sister of yours. I was gonna say awful, but I feel like that'd be mean. But that's why we have those in the comment section that'll say it for me. This story's called, I Pay Rent So I Own This House. Thought this would fit here. English is not my maternal language. That's cute. Backstory. My parents used to own a house on a big plot of land. When my older siblings went away for college, the house felt too big for our needs, so my parents decided to sell the house, but not all the land. They built a smaller house on the part of the land they didn't sell. A few years later, we moved to a city 2 hours away and kept the house as a place to go during the summertime. My parents decided to rent the house as it was well located and it had a really nice view. Renting it meant that they could use the money towards the mortgage and taxes. Enter our Karen. Karen and her boyfriend rented the place so she could be closer to her work. From the start, my dad made it clear. The place was to rent and my parents planned on living in that house after retiring. At that time, both of them planned to work for at least another 20 plus years. They would, of course, notify Karen in advance when they wanted to take back the house so she would have plenty of time to find a new place. In return, they asked that she notify them in advance should she wish to move out so they could find a new renter. The lease also stated that my parents would have some of their things locked in a storage in the basement as well as in a shed on the property, that they would always call Karen before dropping by to get something out of the storage, which was in the basement and connected by the garage, so they wouldn't even disturb Karen. For a few years, Karen was an okay renter. She paid the rent through a check each month. She smoked inside and didn't take care of the land, but my dad didn't make a fuss about it. Real trouble started after around 12 years. Every few months, Karen's checks would bounce. My dad would call her to ask about it. Karen would profusely apologize and rectify the situation. Then it became every other month, until it was every month. Finally, my dad had enough and called her about the lease and the rent. During the call, Karen argued that since she had been paying for the past 12 years, the house was now hers. My dad was shocked since that came out of nowhere. He tried to explain to her that she was renting the place like they had agreed on since the beginning. Karen went on a hissy fit about how she had paid so much over the years and she was the one living there and taking care of the place, which she was not at all. Therefore, it should be hers. She threatened to take my dad to court. Now, where I live, there are many laws which protect the renter and can be a real annoying thing to deal with when you have nasty renters. My dad hired a lawyer to make sure everything was in order. After a meeting with Karen where the lawyer was present, she realized she didn't have much of a case since all paperwork concerning the house was in my dad's name, and the original lease clearly stated that it was a rental. My dad offered her to stop renting should she wish to after the whole debacle, but she wanted to stay in the house. He made her sign a new lease where it stated, again, that this was a rental, and that should she not pay or cause trouble again, my dad would give her the shortest possible notice of eviction allowed by the law. Karen is still renting the house after almost 20 years. My parents are not close to retiring yet. Do hope it won't turn into a crap show when they decide to take the house back. Edit. The question, why did your dad let her sign a new lease? Comes up a lot in the comments. I will say what I answered throughout the comments. I don't have the slightest clue why he would do that. As I was a kid, much younger when this happened, I wasn't kept in the loop much. It was also not the reaction I would expect my dad to have since he is respectful to others and he expects the same in return. I do know the legal actions he took when she threatened to take him to court did protect himself and many future problems that might arise. I do appreciate all the concern and all the advice, although I do think my dad had a good reason to keep her as a tenant from hell after everything that went down. That's a really cool story, and it's a great thing that it worked out in the end. I've noticed lately on the internet that there's a lot of bad sentiments regarding the existence of landlords in rental property. Like landlords are evil because they're living off of someone else's paychecks and that they're lazy and stuff like that. And I'm unsure if this is how everyone feels because I frankly think that that's kind of weird. It's their property, they had to buy it, and you're living in it for a price that's probably cheaper than it would cost you to buy the thing, and without the commitment. So yeah, what that lady was trying to do is very uncool, because it's literally something you agree to. If you don't want to, then you can just get out of it. But I am aware of bad landlords, don't get me wrong. Alright, so this story's called Entitled Woman Demands to Touch My Bump. I'm almost 5 months pregnant, and since my normal clothes were starting to get a bit tight, my boyfriend surprised me with a few new items, including a top that says, "If you didn't put it in there, don't touch it." I found it hilarious and very appropriate, as we had been talking a lot about how annoying people that just touch your belly when you're pregnant are. So, happy as Larry with my new top, finally highlighting my blossoming bump, we headed to the supermarket for our weekly shop. While there, we got separated briefly, and as luck goes, that's when this woman approached me. Here's the cast. Entitled woman. Boyfriend. Me. Yours truly. Excuse me? Yes? That top you're wearing is very rude and offensive. Excuse me? How do you think it feels for people who are struggling to conceive? It's only fair that you let them touch your belly to share for a moment what you're feeling. You're very selfish and clearly don't deserve this blessing. I was left speechless. I'm usually hard to intimidate, but ever since I got pregnant, I found myself very prone to tears in confrontational situations. Also, my partner and I have been trying to conceive for a year and a half before being successful. I remember vividly the pain of seeing other people around me having babies, the heartache every month, and the idea that I could be the source of someone else's pain hurt me deeply. Luckily, my knight in shining armor made his appearance. My boyfriend is a very big, bearded, and tattooed guy, so some people can find him intimidating, if not scary. He is the sweetest man, but he's very protective of me, especially now. So he easily loses his temper when it comes to it. What's going on? Everything all right, darling? I had tears in my eyes at this point. Well, your girlfriend's top is very rude and offensive to people who can't have babies. She should share her miracle and let people touch her belly. You clearly don't deserve it. First of all, you don't know us or how much we've struggled for this baby. Second of all, we're in the middle of a frickin' pandemic, so you should keep your distance no matter what. And finally, if you feel entitled to anyone's personal space and body, no matter the reason, you can F right off. Now, stop harassing my girlfriend before I call security. She looked at him for a second like she was gonna reply, then thought better and left. Yo, is homegirl dating Paul Bunyan? Ooh. I'm pretty sure that's the same dude who drank the Mississippi dry, so you better appreciate that lung capacity. Alrighty, our last story of the day is future sister-in-law thinks my disability is not important enough to accommodate at her wedding. My brother is getting married in July. I have a service dog for my various disabilities, and since the day I found out about the wedding, she has been unwilling to accommodate my need for my service dog. She has made various excuses. What if the dog gets hair on my dress? We don't want dogs eating food off the table. What if he jumps up and messes up my dress? It's expensive and I don't have the money to replace it. I've made it clear that I can't be at the wedding without my service dog. Both my mom and I have also made it very clear that he would never do any of the things she's mentioned. Now it's the venue. Well, we don't know if the venue will accommodate you. I mentioned that they had to, legally, and my brother was like, still. Seems like they are trying to find any reason to deny me. We are reevaluating the topic in July, and if it doesn't go well, I might just show up with my service dog anyway. Could really use some support from you guys. Well, Erica Cat 1, I am offering you my emotional support through the form of this poem dedicated to you. You are important. You are valued. Your service dog is great. Things will not be chewed. You're very pleasant and you do something nice to the air about you. Also, this video would be impossible without you. Alright guys, where's my Nobel Literature Prize thingamabob? Because I just won it with that freaking poem, am I right? It was totally not mediocre at all. Also guys, please check out Daily Dose of Memes in the description down below. Get us to 1K. And if we reach 1K by the time this video goes up, then get us to 45 million K. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.